So we finally got our first look at the Five Nights at Freddy's movie trailer, and it looks pretty good. Video game movies have seen a big rise in popularity and quality recently, so expectations are pretty high for this one, especially because of how popular the franchise has been since the release of the first game in 2014. Luckily, the movie has game creator Scott Cawthon working on it, which is why I have faith that the studio won't stray too far from the source material. And we can see that because the trailer starts out with that iconic haunting jingle, and the animatronic designs are basically carbon copies of the originals. I also respect that the official posters put the animatronic characters front and center rather than conventionally focusing on the human stars of the movie. It makes it feel like Blumhouse is actually catering to the fans of the franchise, like what Nintendo did with the Mario movie. There are even shots and Easter eggs that directly mirror imagery from the games, which shows how much passion is going into the finer details of this thing. Speaking of stars, I think it's really exciting that they got Matthew Lillard to be the main villain of this film. If you played the FNAF games, you know that Lillard's character, William Afton, or the Purple Man, is an incredibly sadistic villain that's a huge part of the overarching story. And as we've seen from his performance in Scream 1, Lillard is most likely going to be great in this role. It reminds me of Jim Carrey's Eggman in the Sonic movies, because even though Sonic 1 was a pretty bland film, a lot of people came out of that movie loving Carrey's take on the character, and even saying that he was the best part of the movie, so hopefully that same thing happens here. Now while we've talked about the good, let's move on to what I'm worried about. The first thing being that PG-13 rating. Some of the most iconic scenes in the Five Nights games are incredibly violent, and generally the story behind them is pretty dark. Therefore, it's going to be tough watching this movie if they shoot it in a way that makes it feel like we're watching a heavily censored version of some of these moments. I don't want this to end up like the Venom movies where there's so much carnage and destruction and there's just no blood for all the people getting killed. More importantly though, I'm nervously interested to see what they do with the story. FNAF's lore and timeline is so surprisingly vast and complex that there's even numerous hour-long video series on the topic. A lot of these video game movies like to keep their stories simple to not alienate new viewers, which is fine until you start to lose what makes those stories special. From the trailer though, it does look like some unique elements of the lore are still present. You got the souls of the children who take control of the animatronics, and even a potential spring lock scene, which is when a person is killed and crushed in the body of an animatronic. Again, worried of how that's gonna look if it's PG-13. But anyway, with all that to say, I'm gonna predict that the FNAF movie will get at least a 70% Rotten Tomatoes score and be a successful hit at the box office, because otherwise, Blumhouse will have wasted what I think could be a really great horror franchise.